Meet Shakil Afzar, campaigner, businessman and political force. The path from private entrepreneur from a well-known local family to a respected community voice has been one that surprised even the man himself.
Prior to 2019, to be very honest, I was a very arrogant businessman. Didn't really care about what was happening around me, wasn't really interested other than if it made me money. And then it hit home. Like they say, you don't know the real problems until it knocks your door, and that's exactly what happened.
A family matter for the Afzar clan escalated into a national firestorm.
In 2019, my nephew came home with a very sensitive book. That book was suggesting that a transgender lifestyle is acceptable by all. We know it's legal. We respect anyone and what they choose to do, but our children, according to the Human Rights Act, should be educated in line with our religious, moral and philosophical convictions. I genuinely went to the school as a concerned uncle that, look, you've sent this book home, but this book is very contradictory to my nephew's religious values, and I feel that you haven't respected that. And the response I got was one sort of as a brush off, that your views don't matter. If you carry on speaking, we'll have to refer you to Prevent. And at the time, I was sat in this head teacher's office, Sarah Hewitt Clarkson from Andrew Park School, which, bearing in mind, was my primary school as a child as well. And I looked at her and I said, what's Prevent? I was that away from what politically was happening. I didn't know what Prevent as an organization was. I said, what's Prevent? She was, we're going to refer you because your views are a bit extremist. I said, my views are extremist? How? I'm just asking, why haven't we been consulted about a highly sensitive book? Anyway, this initial interview and meeting went on with me and her for about 20 minutes. My sister was present. In the end, basically, we had to cut. We weren't getting nowhere. So I said to my sister, look, let's leave. I stand by everything that I did. I believe that it was my job to make it a national issue, my job to show every single parent, whether of religious faith or none, that this is what your children are getting in schools and you should monitor what's happening in schools. And I think I did a very successful job of it.
Shakil appeared ever the unflinching campaigner in public, but it was privately a tough path. Having taken on a controversial topic, him and his reputation were now firmly in the crosshairs of public opinion.
I'm not going to lie, I'm going to say it was genuinely hard. I, at some points, was actually fearful for my children. I had to have a police marker put on my house, police marker on my office, on my cars, police marker on my children's school. You know, a lot of people think that certain communities that, you know, they're just pink feathers and they're all happy. No, there are some serious people within all communities who can do some serious damage. The local police were aware of it. They knew it. We had, at one point, we had a police vehicle stationed outside my house because I was getting death threats. People would send letters, you know, people send letters to the local mosque saying, if you let Shakil come here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So it was very stressful. I'm not going to lie, it was very stressful. But what they were doing was they were giving me the fuel. So I'm the type of person is I'd never get cornered. I don't fear anyone but Allah. And yes, I was fearful for my family, but at the same time, I was like, okay, you are just giving me more. Even if I was gonna stop, I'm not gonna stop now. I'm gonna carry on with what I believe in, because I believe that you are putting me into a bracket of being an extremist because I want to protect my child.
Taking stock of the local scene, Shakil recognized that there was much work to be done politically.
I realized that in our communities, unfortunately, if we don't actively take a stand, we're just left to our own devices. And that was kind of what motivated me to carry on with other things that I'm getting involved with, whether it's tackling Islamophobia, whether it's, you know, poverty. We're living in a city where child poverty is one of the highest in all of United Kingdom. And this is, I firmly believe, due to the lack of accurate representation by our councillors and members of parliament who are subservient to men and women sitting in London rather than the people who have voted them in the area.
After much reflection on the best path ahead, There was a realization that one of the main blocks to political progress in the area was tackling the status quo. Politics was being done as it always was, with the Labour Party holding the cards. Now that needed to change.
It was quite frustrating at the time because I had to start speaking against people who I considered family and friends. And I said, look, we're friends, we're family, but you are supporting an organization that is pushing its force down on our people, whether it's our children, whether it's many other issues. How can we support an organization that is so far away from what we believe, what we want, and how our community wants to thrive? I firmly believe any elected representative, regardless of which party they are, should be answerable to the people who have given them the vote first. Not your, if that means you get suspended from your party, so be it. Stand by your people. And this is the big problem that a lot of organizations, especially Labour, so Labour has indigenously been involved with a lot of the Muslim vote. And you know, historically, my grandfather used to go and I used to say, I used to call him Baji. I said, Baji, you going to vote? He said, yeah. I said, who you vote? Because he couldn't read English. I said, how do you know who you're going to vote for? He goes, I look for the rose. Vote for the gulab. They call it in Asian language gulab. That is completely changed now. Definitely the problem is that we have people within our communities who have become yes men and yes women for financial incentives and political seats. There is no other reason. You know, they say, there's a big saying amongst Labour members and Labour representatives that, look, because I was presented with this, Shakeel, like, stop what you're doing, join Labour and work from within. And this really used to get to me when said, Shakeel, you're working from outside, work from within, join Labour, work from within. I said, work from within what? Because if I was to join Labour, I wouldn't be able to get one conversation with you lot without getting suspended, because you lot are not willing to accept the other side's opinion.
With this new sense of purpose, Shakeel Afsar, the politician, was now coming into his own. He joined an informal group of like-minded candidates in the 2024 general election campaign who ran as independents with encouraging results.
We demonstrate that inner city areas know what they're talking about. It's you guys have just been pulling the wool over these guys' eyes. A month before elections, you come out and, you know, pick up a bit of rubbish and clean up a bit of road and act like, oh, look here, because our people haven't seen anything else. So they expect that this is all we have. When we came as the independent movement and we formed the Independent Candidate Alliance, people, it was a breath of fresh air. I could feel it myself, like, okay, this is something new now and we are answerable. So even now, 7,500 people voted for me. When somebody stops me in the street and says, Shak, okay, what are you doing now? What's the plan? Are you still active? I say, absolutely. I'm an open book. My office is welcome to anybody to come question me. Any political leader or representative who doesn't say openly, please question me, whether it's in WhatsApp groups, if you know them, and they say, Shakeel, what have you done for the area? Or question the other guys as well. So it was very, very refreshing to see that our movement was gaining traction, and not only in Birmingham. So I think the independent movement, we can all agree, definitely started from the mayoral election in Birmingham. Then we have Adnan Hussain from up north. We have the other brother from Leicester. There's a lot. We went in for the last election. We had 5 independents who did get in. So it became a movement that's very real. It's a very real movement. Going forward, I think it's only going to get bigger and better. And I firmly believe that independent candidates are the only real way to have a marketplace of views. So in Parliament, you've got 2 mainstream parties over around about 600 MPs. Imagine all of those MPs were independent and only cared about the area they were in. Keir Starmer couldn't phone them up and say, oh, you got to vote this way or you got to vote that way. They are not answerable to anyone but the people who voted them in. And I think going forward, we will see a lot more independent candidates, because I will be standing in the next general election in this constituency as well. So will Ahmed, and so will my other colleagues. And it further demonstrates that only people who live in the area, who have walked the streets, who know the people, can represent. You can't pick up somebody from a completely different area and put them in put them into this our constituency and expect, oh, these Muslims will just, they blindly vote Labour anyway. In essence, previously you could have put a donkey as with a Labour badge, and people would have indigenously voted for him, because unfortunately our people were very docile to politics. They weren't involved. Now people are realizing that, hold on, having a good representative is not only good for our community, it's good for our future, our generations. If we have people who are, rather than represent us, are misrepresenting us, it paints a wrong picture about what our community is, or what we like to do, or how we behave, or what our etiquettes are. Every community has their own way of, moving, and Birmingham is a very, very diverse community. There's ethnic minorities from all over the world, especially in the inner city areas. You'll find, like, if we were to take a walk, you will see, black people, white people, Arab people, non-Arab people, Asian people, all living together in a cohort, peacefully, respecting one another. And unfortunately, parties like Labour, and why I put my fight up against Labour particularly is because Labour's indigenously controlled our areas. So they've held the whole Green seat for nearly 29 years, something around that. It's always been a red Labour seat, which inshallah at the next general election will be changing.
Battling oppression and the British role in it would not be complete without addressing the issue of the Palestinian genocide.
A lot of people say to me, what's your stance on the Palestinians' right? And I believe that we as British, as a British person, as a taxpayer, I want us to fund the Palestinians. I want us to give them weapons, guns, grenades, missiles, and allow them to liberate themselves against their occupiers. Under international law, any country that is occupied by an occupier has the right to bear arms and defend himself against the occupier. Why are we giving Ukraine weapons to fight Russian aggression, but we're not giving Palestinians weapons to fight Israeli aggression? So the double standard is very much real. And if a British Israeli can go from here to the apartheid state of Israel, join the army, kill Palestinians, come back to UK, and he'll be treated as a hero, why is it one rule for one and another rule for another when they're both the same situations? There's occupation happening. Why is it that it's okay for people with white hair and blue you've been protesting and you might face charges. I said, so what? If we have to face charges by speaking the truth, then charges is what we need. Charges are what we need. Because if you think that you're going to silence me by the fear of spending time in a 6x6 cell, you've got something wrong. We have lessons in front of us that have shown us, for example, South Africa, how long Nelson Mandela spent in a prison. And when he came out, today you've got statues up around him. So fear mongering is one of the biggest weapons that they will utilize. People will be scared to say, I know personally people who say, Shaq, we can't attend a protest, or we have to wear a face mask because if somebody sees us, they're going to report us and I'm going to lose my job. And which is sad really, because if you're living in a country that is a democratic state, you have a right to freedom of expression, you have a right to freedom of speech, then why can't I say that the Palestinians we should be giving the Palestinians weapons to liberate themselves against their occupiers? But we're not. That's a very taboo sentence. But I stand by it. Under international law, it's recognized. You know, we are doing the same thing to Ukraine. We're funding Ukraine with billions of taxpayers' money when we've got homeless people sitting on the side of the road. If you want to be really fair, why are we even helping Ukraine? They're not in Europe. What are we doing? Why are we? Is it because they've got white hair, blue eyes, and blonde hair? It sounds like it. We need to be robust with our words, and we need to say the truth. If the truth means, you know, saying things that you could, you know, damage your work or damage whatever, then I think that's it's a sacrifice that has to be taken. But unfortunately, not everybody can do that. So I am in a good position to be able to do that. And if I wasn't in this position, there's no chance I would be able to sit here and talk to you the way I am, because I would be either arrested, I'll either lose my job, or many other ramifications or discriminations by the central government or even local authorities.
Shakil Afsar is the new definition of a Renaissance man, and the kind of activist the opposition fears. Attempts to intimidate him have not worked, with multiple arrests but no further action taken. Attempts to cut off his livelihood have also not worked. Doxing and online threats, ineffective.
I wear it as a badge of honor. Every protest that I've done, every time I get arrested, every time someone says something threatening to me, I'm so proud with myself that, you know, yes, I'm doing something correct. I'm speaking correctly. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, my house is bugged, or my cars are bugged, or am I being watched by the NCA or MI5 or MI6. We're not stupid. We understand how this works. But I'm very proud of it. I believe that the mistakes I made in my teenage years, this is a way and a path for me to heaven. When I leave this earth and I stand before my Creator, at least I can say I tried. I tried. I was discriminated, I was shut down, I was called X, Y, and Z. You know, my family members, I can't even share them on my socials because of the fact that repercussions, you know, my mom sometimes gets so worried, and Shakil, and I had to unfollow everyone. Because my mom would read the comments, and I had to actually even block my mom off my socials, because she'd read the comments and be on the phone, oh Shakil, someone said this, or read that, phone the police, and she'd get very panicky, and I'd say, Mom, look, the day I'm gonna leave we have a saying in our culture, the day that's outside is outside, the day that you're in the grave is gonna be in the grave. You can't change that, I can't change that. What we can do is how we will be remembered. How will we be remembered by our community, by our peers, by our families, by our, you know, colleagues, by the establishment at whole? You know, I want people in 50 years to pick up a book or pick up a news article and say, you know, that guy, Shakil Afsar, he took a lot of flack, but he spoke the truth, and I always want to be on the side of the truth.
Shakil's wish is for his work and the toil of others like him to be part of the new wave, the next generation who say, not in my name.
That is my whole mission. The whole mission is to make sure that the next generation is able to speak, is able to challenge, and alhamdulillah, we are seeing it happening already. I'm seeing it happening in my community. Prior to 2019, I didn't know I didn't know the difference between what a councillor does and what an MP does. That's the honest truth. I had no knowledge of the constituencies and wards and how electoral rules and what you can. I had no knowledge. Only had knowledge when it hit my door. And a lot of these youth, it's hitting their doors on a regular basis. We have witnessed a modern day genocide happen right in front of our eyes. Most of these children up and down the UK, they know how Palestinian children are being killed. They know how they're being butchered. When I was in school, in my history lesson, I always used to think that they're telling us about this guy Hitler. How did he kill that many people and nobody stopped him? How could that guy, put so many Jewish children, so many people in concentration camps and be so heinous with them and nobody stopped him? This question was always in my mind, and I know now why they didn't stop him. Because it's happening right in front of our face and everyone's completely silent. They didn't stop him because they all sat silently because it wasn't happening to them. And you only take a stand when it's happening to you. And I believe that the next generation, the barbaric establishments like the Israeli establishment, is giving our next generation the power and the fuel to speak against them, because they're seeing their tyranny, they're seeing the genocide, they're seeing innocent people. My young daughter who's 7, she says she knows that the Palestinian children they're dropping bombs on them, or they've got drones, daddy, or they've got tanks, and look, these Palestinians have got the leader said that they got no food. So our communities definitely are becoming more proactively awake, and this is why we are a political problem for the political elites, because the Muslim vote, the ethnic minority vote, and the basic vote on humanity is far greater than any political party, any institutional organization. And I believe the next generation, like you said about your son, is much more aware than what we were. At that age, 17, I was running around like a crazy guy who didn't care about anything that was happening other than if I'm enjoying myself. The UK and our communities will be a force to be reckoned with for the political elites, and I make that prediction that in 10 years' time, the whole landscape of how our communities act or how they speak or who they look up to will be completely changed.